Hello, I will present the paper Social Map 2, Analysis of the Social Interactions of the Elderly People in a Virtual Learning Environment. This paper was developed by the authors Letícia Machado, Tássia Grande, Larissa Justin, Joselina Mendes, and Patrícia Bear. The popularization of the Internet and a new perspective of a long life for a large part of the population is making possible new perspectives for education. One possibility of a permanent education for the elderly is through the distance education. EAD provides new possibilities for the elderly, since pedagogical strategies can be constructed according to the needs of the elderly. Therefore, it's important to investigate the social relations established in this type of modality, especially for the elderly. The objective of the paper was to analyze the social interactions of the elderly in a distance course in order to propose pedagogical strategies that can maximize the virtual relationships. The research had a quantitative and qualitative approach of the case study type, composed of 4 stages. Step 1. Construction of a theoretical framework. Studies of education, gerontology, and social interactions were used. Step 2. Development of distance courses. Viva EAD. A course for the elderly was planned and offered on subjects chosen by the senior participants themselves. Step 2. Development of distance courses. Viva EAD, a course for the elderly, was planned and offered on subjects chosen by the senior participants themselves. Step 3. Construction of pedagogical strategies for the social interactions of the elderly in distance learning. From social interactions and participant observation were constructed pedagogical strategies that could maximize social interactions. Step 4. Disclosure of results. Burden on the content analysis was used to analyze the data. This study was targeted at the 28 seniors, aged 60 or over, who participated in a distance learning course called Viva EAD, Living and Learning in Distance Learning. This course was developed at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. 3 workshops were planned and developed: social relations in the virtual, audiovisual production, and healthy aging. Each workshop was developed in a blended form and lasted for 1 month. The instruments for data collection were the virtual learning environment Roda, interaction features, forum, messages, logbook. It was also used as a library and a web forum to post the activities performed by the participants. The results will now be presented. In order to perform the data collection, the Social Map 2 was used. The Social Map is part of the Roda virtual learning environment. This tool aims to present graphically the social interactions of the subjects in Roda. For an in-depth analysis of the evaluation of the interactions, sociograms were generated from the first week of the beginning of the classes, followed by the second month of classes and the 4th month. The nodes represent the subjects who participated in a selected period. In orange color are the teachers, and the blue color the elderly students, and the green color the young monitors. In some situations, it will appear in the color of wine those subjects who have escaped, who never entered in a virtual learning environment. The arrows that connect the nodes represent the interactions established, and the size of the type represents the amount of message exchanged between the subjects. Although there was a proposed activity so that the students could interact in the first week, only one person performed this interaction through the forum. The other students did not exchange messages during the period, as we can see in Figure 2. In the second month, the exchange between the subjects intensified, with the interaction between the teacher, student, and the elderly being more prevalent. Only 40 students exchanged messages with each other using contacts for this interaction. In the last month, the exchange of messages from the teachers to the students intensified. Student C began a new contact with the student J. The young monitor did not contact and was not contacted by any student during the course period. Therefore, for the class A, it is observed that the students interacted little and they exchanged the part only from the teacher of the class, as we can see in Figure 3. However, Class B had a higher interaction among students in the first week, with an average of 4 messages exchanged per student, as we can see in Figure 4. Most of the seniors used the contacts for this communication. The elderly students intensified their exchanges, as can be seen in Figure 5. It's also possible to observe in this group the involvement of the monitor with the participants, since she received the message by the contact as well as sent them through the photo. Like Class B, Figure 5, this class also started the social exchanges in the first week, especially among some specific students. Interactions intensify, especially among teachers and students. The message exchange between the students remained the same. An important data that can be analyzed is that the young monitor who had the task of assisting the elderly in the using of the technologies had not entered the environment until the selected period. It's highlighted in a burgundy color. With the data collected in the 3 classes in the different periods, it's possible to observe a greater interaction in Class B compared to the other classes, mainly by the exchange between the elderly students themselves. This data is mainly due to the time that this group has known each other, mainly since 2009, which allows a greater and faster approach among the members, although this young monitor in the Class C did not enter in the virtual learning environment. This did not directly reflect on the students' interactions, since, as it's possible to observe, they contacted the teachers to solve doubts and talking about another subjects. Asked about the low interaction in the virtual learning environment during the course, one of the elderly indicated that they prefer face-to-face classes, since in face-to-face social interactions we can always better clarify or solve some misunderstanding more directly, whereas in the virtual we cannot always achieve that. And always the face-to-face things captivated me more than the virtual ones, because we have the eye in the eye that differentiates these relations. And another student says that chatting in classes in person and in the virtual it has the same effect. The collected data indicate that the elderly have a preference to face-to-face interactions, but they know the importance of the virtual ones, mainly because of the ease of communication. And the importance of the teacher's mediations to instigate the exchange between the students. And there are pedagogical strategies that make it possible to maximize social interactions among the elderly. The analysis of the data made it possible to construct the following pedagogical strategies that can foster the social interactions of the elderly in the virtual learning environments. The provision of the activities that instigate the use of communication tools in the VLA. To monitor the young monitors to carry out the interactions, activities that allow communication between students, activities that facilitate the collaboration of materials among the elder students, group of activities, currency, contents and related subjects with topics of public interest, Use of the social map in the course of the process in order to follow up interactions and thus modify the pedagogical practice if necessary. To conclude, the data point to the following results. Further, study is needed on the social relations of other people in virtual learning environments, and it's necessary to evaluate the pedagogical strategies constructed and to improve them. And it's important to further discuss distance education for the elderly. Final considerations. The presence of the teacher instigating the interactions is very important for the establishment of social relations. And there is a lot to research in this area, as well as new reflections and discussions about the role of education in this process of inclusion of older people. Well, we thank you for your participation and we are available for any questions through the emails below.